Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Khoza from the University of Johannesburg, Johannesburg Business School. Oh, okay, let's try. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, my topic for today is operationalizing the metaverse in South African higher education. That's a readiness assessment and strategic framework. So this is my presentation overview, the background, the theoretical foundations, research methodology, key findings and discussion, and the framework and the conclusion. So just a little bit of background about what is Metaverse. That's a transformative innovation. And it's persistent, immersive, visual environment via avatars, VR, AR, and AI. And it enables you to have visual labs, simulation, digital campuses, and experiential learning. Okay, and why now? Why are we talking about the metaverse? Because for our technologies are reshaping the teaching and learning and institutional operations globally. Okay, this study is actually a follow-up study, or it was rather instigated by this, where they studied that last year. We were assessing if metaverse can be a solution to South African higher educational institutions. The reason for that was because we are struggling with spaces. So if you see, this was the study from last year, that in 2025, it was in 25 alone, it differs every year, but we had 337,158 matriculants that were seeking any bachelor studies, but there was only 2,002 first year places available across all 26 universities in South Africa. So, but that is what happening in that year, the matriculants for that year, not counting the ones that matriculated other years. So universities, they received about 4.2 million applicants or applications for only 131,987 first year spaces that were available. So out of 26 universities, this study was reporting only 3 results last year. For example, it picked up only 3 universities, like University of Johannesburg had 693,990 applications, and it had only 10,500 spaces. Cape Peninsula University of Technology had 518,300 applications and 9,235 spaces. Then the Northwest University had 390,000 sort of application, but it only had 12,937 spaces. So the study then concluded that yes, metaverse can be a solution. So that was the study that we did last year. So this year, what we are doing then, we are looking actually at implementation readiness. So we are talking about higher educational institutions, but I narrow it down to TVET colleges, because TVET colleges in South Africa, they have an opportunity of creating job employment, and then, you know, like also they're easy to manage bureaucratic structures and all that. They're a little bit better than universities. So there's a lot of opportunities. If you do this in TVET colleges, you are actually able to help our country. So, and I looked into what, like our TVET colleges, they have a target that by 2030, they need to have an enrollment of 2.5 million in total. So by 2030. But this is a very ambitious planning if there's nothing in place. So then I said, maybe Metaverse can also contribute in reaching that, because yes, they do online studies, but Metaverse can actually assist. But then when we look at the problem that we identified as well, because we said brick and mortar expansion at this scale is not possible. We can't build more institutions. We can't, because there's financial crisis, there's financial issues. So that is not possible. What can be the other solution then? Then, because we also infrastructure, we have the workshop space capacities, we have also the lecture capacity constraints, because also the lecturers are not capacitated fully. Okay, Metaverse offers a scalable and immersive alternative. So it's not the only solution, but it can also add to this. So little empirical evidence on whether SA higher educational institutions, especially TVET colleges, are ready for immersive Metaverse-based learning environment. This study investigates whether higher educational institutions in South Africa, especially TVET colleges, are ready to implement the Metaverse in education. So there are four lenses on adoption. That's a theoretical foundation. We looked into diffusion of innovation. We look into technology acceptance model, constructivist learning, and connectivist learning. So DOI and TM explain why institution and individual adopt CLT and CNT, and explain how the Metaverse pedagogy delivers once adopted, or is delivered once adopted. This study is qualitative and is explorative case study design, and is purposive because I selected certain, like 8 people. That's why I use a purposive sampling technique, and the data was collected through semi-structured interviews via MS Teams. And then it was analyzed using thematic analysis. And then Lincoln also spoke about the trustworthiness, the credibility, dependability, and confidentiality and transferability of the data. So then when you talk about the portfolios of my participants, at National Policy, I had the head director of lecturer development. And then I also had the head acting director of international scholarships that I interviewed. And then on institutional leadership level, I had the deputy principal from one TVET college. And then I had deputy chief education specialist, that is learning directorate. And at Frontline, that's the lecturers. I had 4 lecturers that I interviewed from CJC, from Majuba, from Vembe, that are actually teaching on a daily basis. So then there are the findings then. There are 4 things that we looked at. The first thing is institutional infrastructure readiness. So the participants, when we asked them about institutional infrastructure readiness in their TVET colleges, they said TVET colleges have made massive progress by adopting LMS and online teaching platforms, but there are still limitations because of inadequate bandwidth, outdated computers, insufficient software, licenses, and shortages of modern devices. So there was the response of the participant, and the DHEAD official also responded by saying, we have urban universities, rural universities, historically white universities, historically Black universities. Some rural universities did not have the basic equipment, basic internet connection, and the basic computers. So even though the COVID has forced the universities to move into the online, however, there is still institutional limitations. And then we look into the second theme. The second theme is digital competencies and capacity building. So the participant responded by saying the educators will require hands-on technical training, instructional design support, continuous professional development, mentoring, and communities of practice. Students may embrace immersive technologies because it aligns with their experiences, but some educators have cyberphobia and the fear of technology. A digital fluent student body meets the instructional workforce constrained by cyberphobia. And then the next theme, the theme 3, we looked into the policy and governance readiness. So the response, one of the responses says, I don't think we have policies in our institutions that guide us about how to utilize technology and how to manage technology. Witness dimension of preparedness, ethics, cybersecurity, AI governance, all addressed or undressed rather, or unaddressed. Theme 4, implementation challenges and risk. The response was the institutions should be very careful that they don't widen the existing inequalities. Equity should be embedded into, should be embedded into every stage. Financial constraints, cybersecurity, digital inequality, change resistance. So that's what other responses were also identified. Theme 5, opportunities and future potential. So I can take my student to the Table Mountain while I'm in Johannesburg. Students engage with experiential learning. So they were talking about Metaverse, that it gives an opportunity that you don't have to actually drive to the Table Mountain. So this was a tourism lecturer that referred to this, that sometimes he takes a student using obvious Metaverse to the Table Mountain, and a strong optimism for engineering, tourism, hospitality, logistic, aviation training. So that's a possibility. And readiness is not only a technology, but it is socio-technical ecosystem, not a tech question only. So there's a two-tier risk. So for example, basic internet, outdated hardware, metaverse readiness. Without targeted investment, as a risk, a technology enriched experience for urban universities and a resource constraint for a rural, especially TVET colleges, because most of them are in rural areas as they attract different types of students. So, and we look to term explain educator gap. Perceived usefulness of metaverse is widely acknowledged by all participants. Perceived ease of metaverse, use of metaverse remains low. Lack of infrastructural design, support, hands-on training is a bottleneck. So it's not motivation. So Geo explains the stack adopters, institutions lack the organizational support system to move educators from legates to late majority into active adoption. Professional development must rather run parallel to procurement, not follow it. Government vacuum system risk. Traditional online learning policies are unequipped for metaverse, ethical, legal, operational complexity. Student safety, that's to talk about especially safety of their data, their identity, their algorithmic bias, cross-border data. DHET and councils must move from reactive to proactive governance. And then we talk about the risk versus the opportunity. So when you look at theme 4, we said there's extreme financial strain on public budgets, risk of worsening digital divide, cybersecurity and data privacy threats, psychological strain from extended immersion, but there is also good opportunities. Grammatic's access to explosive physical training, reaches theory, practice gap safety and iteratively aligned with constructivism in pedagogy, high value for engineering, tourism, logistics. The metaverse must be pursued as novelty or generically, not as a lateral replacement, but it must be strategically targeted to modules where virtual simulation offers a clear cost advantage over physical infrastructure. So this is the framework, that is the readiness framework. So it look at institutional assessment readiness, policy, governance, development. It must look at the stakeholder engagement, pilot implementation, scaling, sustainability, and continuous evaluation. Grounded in constructivism, connectivism, term and diffusion of theory. Each phase aligns, or it must actually be aligned with 4 dimensions. There is technology, human capacity, governance, and pedagogy. And possible or feasible and desirable. So it is not metaverse, you can't say it is an exact solution, but it's possible, it's feasible, it's also desirable. So the important things, readiness is emerging, not established. The framework provides the missing roadmap. Equity must be designed in, not and bolted on. Thank you so much.